Aina, can you hear me well? Welcome and thank you for the welcome. I can see your comment. That's great. And if you can hear me well, please just say yes. So we'll go ahead and get rolling. Oh, great. Sirish, thank you for joining in, buddy. And so looks like you can hear me well. So I'm going to start off like you commanded me. Great. Well, hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, a late evening in India for those of you who joining in from India. My name is Omar Sharif. I am based in Dubai, and this is still early evening for me. It's around 5 p.m. now. Not 6:30 and later in India or wherever you're logging in from, but happy to be here. So let me start off by expressing my gratitude to Aina, the admin of this group called Intense, which is really intense. I love the group, by the way. And so thank you, Aina, for allowing me this platform, letting me be on this, and interacting with the members of the group and people who have recently joined as well. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Thank you. Good to see people joining in. Hi, Ruhi. Nice to see you. Dawn, great to see you too. And Sirish and Aina, fantastic. I have all my favorite people on board today. Great. So, intense group. As I was saying, I love this group. I love the energy in this group because I saw some lives going on in the past few days. I saw some content being shared, fantastic content. I saw some posts, very interactive, very interesting posts. So, I was intrigued and I said, this is a group I have to be a part of. And Aina was gracious enough to have me on board. So, thank you again. And as people keep joining in, we'll not wait for everybody. They can come in as we stream along. Let's get started. So, once again, my name is Omar Sharif. I'm based in Dubai. And for me, I have been a student of life. I still am. I love to learn from people, share my experiences, interact with people like you who love to learn as well. So it's that gives me the thrill. It gives me kind of fulfillment to talk to people, to understand them, share my thoughts and my experiences with them, and do these kind of things. So today's session is all about clarity. For me, clarity is everything. Clarity is something which I keep on the pedestal, literally, and that's something which has been granted to me, I can say, by this country where I live in. Dubai has been very, very good to me. This is the place where I stumbled across my clarity, where I actually came, where I became clearer as to what am I supposed to do with my life. And so I thought, let me do a session on intense session in intense group series. You rock, man. I thought, let me do a session on clarity and purpose of life. Now, I've traveled to more than a 35 plus countries, and everywhere I've been to, every country, across continents, across cultures, people I've met, the one common denomination amongst everybody, with a few exceptions, was people were not really having a life purpose. And one of the reasons they were not having a life purpose was because they had no clarity. They never had time to step back and actually have clarity with them. Madiha, thank you for joining in. Great to see you here as well. And so every person, whether it was a C-class executive, whether it was a person who was really trying to make ends meet, regardless of the race, culture, and country he lived in, they all were generally just going along life, trudging along life, but never had a purpose or never had clarity as to what they're supposed to do in life. And most of us are like that. We are so busy with life, so busy trying to foot the bills, we hardly take a step back and think through as to how do we bring clarity into our lives. Tony Robbins actually says this very well. He says, life is like a sprinting river. And we, as human beings, tend to hop into our boats into the river and keep going along with the flow, keep going along with the currents. The river has currents, of course, just like life has current issues, current problems, current relationships, current jobs. And then as we are in that boat, we tend to get engaged with the current issues, current problems, or disengaged as we get over them. But we tend to feel we are busy. Still, even when you are busy, as the boat keeps rolling on, keeps sailing on, we still are not aware of where is the boat headed to. And that's how things happen. The boat keeps sailing along, we keep trudging along and keep moving until one fine day you wake up to the sound of water, gushing water falling from a height, and you open your eyes and you see that you're 5 feet away from the Niagara Falls and you're about to drop. And at that moment, you say, oh shoot, and you get up and try to look for your oars and your controls. You have absolutely none of them because you never planned for it. And then most of us take that fall. For some, it's a financial fall. For some, it's a career fall. For some, it's a relationship fall. For some, it's a business fall. For some, it's a life fall. But most of us take that fall. Some of us recover and get back on the 2 feet, but some of us don't. And that's terrible. If only we had thought of this early on upstream, had a little more clarity in life, had a little more purpose for ourselves in life, things would have turned out to be so very different, right? That's exactly what happens to a majority of us. So today we're going to talk about how do you really get clarity. I do not have a magic wand to show you how to get clarity, but I have tried and tested 7 tips or 7 ways of how you can actually get clarity in your lives. Surabhi, absolutely, we drift in the flow. Too good. Thank you for joining in, Surabhi. So let's get started with that. Fortunately for all of us, there are ways and means, there are physical methods, there are mental makeups which we can use to convert the uncertainty into some form of certainty. So the first tip from me, or the first way from me essentially is, I've got listed down all over here, is assume 100% responsibility for the lack of clarity in your life. Assume 100% responsibility for the lack of clarity in your life. Clarity, a lot of people believe that clarity is something which is going to be bestowed upon them. Some people believe clarity is something which will be attracted by the law of attraction. Some people believe that they do not have the intellect and someone else has a higher intellect, hence he has more clarity. All of these are untrue. They're false statements, false thoughts. They're very, very, very self-defeating. The fact is, clarity isn't something that arrives from outside. Clarity is something which is actually inside of you. You just have to find it. It's not a matter of luck. It's not something which law of attraction is going to attract for you. You have to work on it. You have to find it within yourself. Clarity is a decision. What degree of decision have you made in terms of your clarity will decide the kind of life you live. For some people, they do not make any decision, and that's fine. And that also is one kind of a decision. It says they do not have clarity. Some people have some kind of a decision made for clarity, and that's a mediocre. And some people are really, really clear about what they want from life. Eventually, it's a decision. Decision, if you know, comes from the word decidere. Decidere is the right pronunciation for it. It's a Latin word, decidere, decidere. Decidere means to cut off, and that's where the decide word gets originated from. You have to cut off from the rest of the branches, from the rest of the directions which are not going to provide you any wealth or health or anything which is going to be of value to you. You have to stay focused on what matters to you the most. Decide. Clarity is a decision. By the way, that does not mean that that does not mean that you absolutely close down and be very inflexible to the options coming towards you. No. Be open to the options, give them a hearing, but don't get swayed. Otherwise, things become wishy-washy, and that's where you actually lose clarity. Well said, Sirish. Your mind should be your oar in the currents of life. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you've got to prepare for that early on upstream. Great. If all is well so far, let's move on to the next one. So that's before I move to the next one, I would like to give a simple example here in terms of owning your lack of clarity or owning your clarity. Today I can kind of confidently say I did achieve my clarity, but here's the thing, here's my story. I was a person who was very, very unclear about my life. very uncertain about where I'm headed, what I want to do. I had zero clarity. For me, my clarity was my dad. Every single thing I wanted to, I always looked up to him. He was my lighthouse. Every decision I had to make in life, I had to look up to him. And everything was possible for me only because he gave me approval. 2012 changed everything, which is when I lost him. When I lost my dad, I was in Dubai. And that's when it was not just an emotional and a physical loss for me, it was a complete disaster. I was broken to the core. Broken because, not because I had lost something, but because I had absolutely no way of moving forward. I did not know where am I headed to. I did not know what do I do next day, next week, next month, next year. Absolutely zero clarity. Weeks turned into months. And finally, I started probing myself, asking questions to myself. And that's a different session altogether. The questions I asked myself, I can share that with you later on. But the point is, I owned my unclarity. I owned my lack of clarity. And before long, it took me almost a year to really get to the point of being consultative, asking people, asking myself the questions, trying to look inside me and trying to look at how can I get clarity in my life. What next was the big question. And finally, I was able to own it. So, owning your lack of clarity is the first step towards getting clarity. Hi, Sonu. Good to see you too. Thank you for joining in. Next one is the point number two or tip number two is stop creating the opposite of clarity. There are things you do and there are thoughts you think which can enable you to become clear in life, or there are things you do and there are thoughts you think which actually disengage you from clarity and make you more fuzzier in your mind and cloud you and not allow you to think clearly. I call them clarity busters and clarity boosters. Clarity busters are all those activities which essentially will make your mind hazy, make your mind fuzzy, and keep you away from clarity. What are they? First one, trying to interact and live with people who are not of the same value as yours. I have certain values, certain ethics, certain baselines, integrity and faith and others. If I try to work with people who do not have similar values as mine, it's a big struggle to stay on the same page. And that tends to blur your life. That tends to take away the clarity from your life. What else? Trying to live with people, or trying to work with people who themselves are drifting in life, who have no aim, no higher aim in life, who are going about life just like any other person would, and that again dampens your spirit, dampens your enthusiasm, and takes away the portion of your mind which should actually be occupied with clarity. Three, overindulging in entertainment, movies, Netflix binging, spending too much of time on the web, on the internet, trying to do many things at the same time. All these things tend to again bring unclarity into your life, tend to fuzz your mind. Fourth, caffeine. I know some people who love caffeine would actually not like this, but the fact is, caffeine is good in a certain way, but when you overdose yourself with caffeine, that tends to make your thoughts race. And your thoughts race, when your thoughts start racing, you cannot think clearly. You cannot think through, and that's where you get phased again. And then comes the kind of numbness people try to get into by indulging in activities, or not activities, the right word for that is addiction, by trying to eat junk food, by smoking cigarettes, by binging on alcohol, by doing everything that kind of numbs you, that again takes away the clarity part from your mind. And then finally, thinking all the time about uncertainty, thinking all the time about why don't I have clarity, that also numbs you totally. All these are clarity busters. Now, what are clarity boosters? Exactly opposite of these. Living and working with people who hold the same values or similar values as yours. I'm fortunate to work with a partner who is on the call today with me, who is very, very similar to the values that I have, who is someone whom I look up to as well when I work with her. And so working with people who are similar, who are of a similar value of yours makes you go easy in life, gives you a lot more clarity. Living with people who generally are on the same page as you in terms of achieving their aims, who have a distinct path, who want to succeed in life, who want to grow in life, and who want to get ahead. People who share a similar vision as yours, if not the same, staying with them makes your life much easier and more clearer. Staying away from junk food but trying to replace them with fresh fruits and vegetables, smoothies, and everything that is healthy keeps you smart and sharp. Caffeine is fine, as I said, but overdose is bad, so limiting caffeine is good for you too. Rather than binging on Netflix and movies and what have you, replace those with audiobooks, with TED Talks, with lovely books. Feed your mind with that kind of information, and look at how the clarity actually soars up in your life. Clarity is all about staying attuned, being aware of what you feed your mind. So remember this, clarity boosters are important. Take out the clarity busters out from your life. That's tip number two. Tip number three is harvest the lessons from the past. There have been times in the past, for me for sure, a number of times where I have felt absolutely clear about things. Then there have been times where I felt very, very unclear, very, very uncertain. Is all okay with everyone? All listening to me? Great. I'm going to continue as if everything's fine and I'm absolutely audible and visible, okay? So learning, trying to get into your past and harvesting lessons from the past. Let me give you an example. I was being interviewed by a German manufacturer in Dubai, and I went for the interview, and the managing director interviewed me for a couple of hours or so. It was evening time, and he goes, we would like you to come to our office again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and give us a presentation on the latest assignment or the latest accomplishment you actually have done. Can you do that? And I had no choice but to say yes. I said, yes, I will, and I can. And I went back to my home absolutely clueless. This is about almost 7 to 8 years ago, okay? I went back home absolutely clueless about what do I need to put in the presentation, which incident, which assignment do I take, what do I do? I was worried. I was anxious. I went back home, couldn't think, couldn't think clearly, didn't know what to do. I took my car keys again, drove down to the beach. Evening time, 7:30 p.m. My family wasn't here at the time. Drove down to the beach, parked my car, and there was this long stretch of there's a nice stretch of walking, soft padded walking area on the beach, and I walked for an hour. That 1 hour of walk next to the ocean, breathing in fresh air, being in complete solitude, gave me absolute clarity on what I wanted to do. I came back home, sat down until 2 a.m. in the morning, completed my presentation. Next day, 9 a.m. in the morning, I gave the presentation. By evening, I had an offer letter in my hand. Talk about clarity. So every time, you know what I do now, every time I think I need to have some clarity, that's what I do. I know that act of mine, walking by the ocean, taking in fresh air, being in complete solitude, allowed me to clear my thoughts and come up with the next action step. That's what I do every single time whenever I need clarity now. So go back into your past, harvest lessons from your past, and do the things which allow you to become more clear, and do less of those things which tend to make your mind more hazy. You must have examples of your own, where for me, for example, if I get emotional, if the emotion of anger tends to take the better of me, I cannot be clear about anything. So I make it a point that whenever I'm emotional, I am not taking a decision. I am not trying to make anything or arrive at a conclusion, or not trying to think through anything unless I really calm down myself. Everybody has theirs. Some people might think that when they are with someone, one particular someone who kind of talks down, or who kind of is more of a negative person, you would always feel flustered. You would never be clear when you're with him or her. And that's the thing you want to recognize and do less of those things which do not give you the clarity required. All good. Captivating story. Thank you, Sirish. As usual, you're an absolute support, man. Okay, so that was tip number three. Tip number four, way number four of gaining clarity is use visualization to create the vibe of clarity. Mark my words. Use visualization to create the vibes of clarity. We are human beings, right? Either you are clear or you're not. Now, if you're anything like me, you would like to have all your ducks in a line before you actually take an action. It's very natural. You want all the external forces to be well organized to have clarity. But try this sometimes. Internally, try to think through, try to imagine that you're clear, try to give yourself the feeling that you're clear in your life. Clarity is not a feeling, by the way. There is clarity is not a feeling, and there is a hint of emotion into it, but it's not an emotion either. Clarity is all about vibes. When you are clear about something, imagine some situation in the past where you were absolutely clear about something. That was the moment when your mind and your body was absolutely aligned. Every cell in your body was clear on the next step forward, on the direction you've got to take. Every part of your body was in sync with what you have to do next. That's a powerful feeling to be. Clarity gives you that. And what you need to do, what all of us need to do, is try to get those vibes into your body every now and then and get a good hang of it. So how do you do that? Visualize a situation. Visualize somewhere where you are absolutely clear about the next step. Visualize the kind of people who are around you. Visualize the surrounding around you when you're very clear. Visualize the way you're talking to people when you're clear. Visualize the way you're walking when you're clear. Visualize the way you're dressing when you're clear and have absolute clarity. It's a powerful visualization, very, very powerful. And it doesn't matter what you visualize. You can visualize yourself as an emperor or empress wearing golden clothes. I don't care. What you visualize is not important. But the visualization giving you the clarity vibe is important. Doing that for 15 to 20 minutes every day, getting that clarity vibe inside your system, getting a feeling of what clarity feels like is something which will make you drift much more strongly towards having clarity in life. You get used to it. Very, very powerful. Try it. Vibe of clarity, you are your thoughts. Absolutely, Survey. To the point. Okay, so that was point number four. Point number five is ask for help. I know not many of us are very keen to ask for help when it comes to these kind of things, but we should. It could be, and asking for help does not mean that you are trying to go to someone else, as I said, who has a better intellect or has a better clarity. Yeah, someone who can actually guide you. It could be a friend, could be a relative, could be a parent, could be a coach, could be a consultant, right? Could be someone, could be a counselor, someone who can help you think of the bigger picture, someone who can make you think out of the box. Go to that person. I'll warn you though, when you actually look at a friend who wants to help you out, or a counselor or a coach, you have to be careful that person is knowledgeable enough to assist you. The last thing you want to have is a well-intentioned friend who wants to do good to you, but in his naiveness actually ends up confusing you more than giving you clarity. So be careful whom you open your heart out to. It's important that you be careful of the person you select for guidance or for coaching or for friendly advice. Okay. One more thing I want to add here is when you do that, when you actually have someone who can guide you, you have to ensure that you still have 100% ownership of your clarity or the lack of it. Your friend, your coach, your guide, your parent, your brother, whoever that is, will only show you the bigger picture, but the real pathway has to be created by you still. They will only guide you in the direction of the pathway, probably, but you have to create the pathway. It's still your ownership. Hi, Jaspreet. Hi there. Good to see you all lovely people coming over. Thank you for joining in. So that was for looking up to a counselor, coach, friend, or relative from whom you can ask for help. There's absolutely no shyness in that. Feel free to reach out. You never know how that might help. And point number six, tip number six is, of course, which is my favorite, put your goals in writing and review them daily. I maintain a journal, a diary for myself all the time. Writing your goals is very powerful. We all know that. Yet, it is a habit which is least used by majority of us. We all know this stuff, but we don't do it. Writing down, when you have thoughts in your mind, they are fiction, they are a fantasy. When you transfer them to paper, they become a goal. And believe me, everybody on the call, when you actually write down your goals on a piece of paper, the kind of clarity you'll have through them is immense. It's amazing. Hi there, Sayed Qasim. Nice to see you too. Positive vibes? Absolutely. Good to see you guys. So make it a habit of writing down goals in a journal or a book and keep reviewing them. Writing down your goals makes them clearer to you, makes them specific to you, and does not allow your mind to get fuzzy because you tend to keep it in your minds. I know some people who have this habit very, very well of journaling, and they have been very successful in whatever they do in life too. The other part of that is reviewing your goals. Reviewing is important. Every time, you have to drill into your subconscious. Keep drilling into your subconscious and let your subconscious realize, accept the goals that you have for your life. Your subconscious needs to live those goals before they actually get lived in the real world. And how do you do that? Well, you can either create a track by either maintaining a journal, or there's a Jack, I believe there is the Jack Canfield way, where you can have index cards. Have a goal on every index cards and review them. He says have one goal on one index card and look at it every morning when you get up from your bed, and every day evening before going to sleep. Have a look at those goals one by one on your index cards and live them. Watch your goals turn into reality in your imagination every single day, and watch how clarity becomes easy for you to binge on. That's for the goals. And I've done a previous live session on goal setting and how do you really create goals, and how goals should be very tight sealed and leak proof. That's a different session, but writing down goals and reviewing them is a very important thing. I do have friends sometimes, and some people whom I know, who say, when I start to write down my goals, I really don't have nothing to write. You know what I tell them? I say, well, if you have no goals to write, just use a blank piece of paper, write goals on top, and put it on the wall. That's your goal. When you ask for nothing, you get nothing. How can you have nothing to ask for? Don't try to be perfect in your list of goals. Just go ahead and create a list. Could be as simple as getting a new toy or getting a new mobile phone or going from place to place B. Doesn't matter. Start with a list. Start with a goal list. Review them every single day and watch them actually coming to life and gaining clarity. And finally, the last one is crystallize your goals. Every goal that you make has to be detailed, has to be specific. It's no rocket science, it's basic, but still, again, a lot of people fail to do that. Don't forget to dot your I's and cross your T's as far as goals are concerned. Goals have to be specific, goals have to be measurable. I always say goals have to be binary. Goals have to be binary in the sense every goal that you have, if somebody asks you at some point in time, how are you doing with the goal, or have you achieved the goal, your answer should be either yes or a no. It cannot be maybe. Your goals have to be binary. Making more money is not a goal, because a year later, if I ask you, have you made more money, you wouldn't say yes or a no. You wouldn't have a definite answer to it. But if you say, I want to make $1 million, and a year later I ask you, have you made $1 million, you could say either yes or a no to me. And that's what makes a goal. It's a very simple example. You could get as detailed and specific as you want to in terms of trying to make a goal, and as specific as detailed you can get, the more clear and the more better for you. So that were the 7 tips that I had. Let me just repeat them again very quickly. Assume 100% responsibility for the lack of clarity in your lives. Stop creating the opposite of clarity. Remember this. Remember the clarity busters and clarity boosters. I love that actually. And then harvest lessons from the past. Harvest the lessons of clarity or the lack of it from the past and use them every time you want to take a decision. Use visualization to create the vibes of clarity, a very powerful technique. Create those vibes of clarity, get used to it. And then the fifth one is ask for help. There's no shame in that. Feel free to reach out, ask for help. Sixth is write down your goals, maintain a journal, and review your goals. Reviewing them is equally important. And finally, crystallize your goals and make sure that your goals can be as binary and as specific as possible. That's what I had to offer. Hopefully you found this inputs helpful, and these are something which can help you gain clarity in life. If not, I'm just a phone call away. Okay, I see a message from Sayed. I got confused what to write first. Um, you just whatever goals you have, Sayed. Anything you think you have to achieve your goal as, jot them down. As I said, whatever stays in your mind is a fantasy. When you put them down on paper, it becomes a goal. Jot them down and make them as detailed as possible. I'll give you an example again on a goal. Goal should be smart. Who's that? Don. Absolutely, Don. Goal should be absolutely smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and T is timely, right? If I'm not wrong. Goals should absolutely be smart. So, Sayed, write down your goals, and I was giving an example, right? So, if you say, I want to work for a job or I want to be employed in something that I love to do, it's a very vague statement. I want to work with something, I want to work as a job that is something I love to do. Now, if you want to be more specific in that, be positive in your statement, of course. When you write your goals, be positive and write down with a sense of accomplishment as if you already have it. Okay? If you want to make $1 million, I make $1 million. Not I want to make $1 million. I make $1 million. Similarly, a job that you love, I would like to get into a job. For example, if I know you well, I would like to get into a job which allows me to travel the world and speak to people and impact millions of lives. It could get much more specific than that. I'm just making it up. Okay, Sayed? That's something which I was trying to say. Keep your goals, dot your I's and cross your T's, keep them specific, keep them measurable, and keep them, of course, like Jasprit says, time bound. Love the distinction between clarity busters and boosters. Absolutely, Don. Thank you very much. And that is it for me. If there are any questions, we can take them. Otherwise, as far as my session is concerned, I would say we are done. We are adjourned. If there are no questions, we wait for a minute and then I'll just move on and switch off the live. Thanking every one of you who's joined in the call once again. Thank you for joining in. Great inputs there. I love the interaction. I love the activity. And thank you for being there. And thank you once more, Aina, for allowing me on this platform. This is a great platform to be on. I hope I can come back again someday. By the way, I've asked a lot of my friends to join in too. Hopefully they've joined in. I don't know. I don't have visibility to that. Okay. What to write first? Start with your desired outcome. Don, are you answering them? Okay, there you go. Don is answering Syed, and that pretty much sums it up. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Signing off. See you later. Have a great evening wherever you are. Have a good time. Stay clear in your mind, and have clarity in your life. Ciao. Bye.